Good morning. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar regarding the fiscal year 2024-25 continued funding application for California State Preschool Program, CSPP, and Pre-Kindergarten and Family Literacy Support Contractors, CPKS. This webinar is being presented by the Early Education Division, EED, on Tuesday, October 31st, 2023, from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Next slide, please. So I want to welcome everyone again, and my name is Fiona Lavelle. I'm an analyst with the Contracts and Grants Administration Unit here at the California Department of Education, CDE, in the Early Education Division, EED. Presenting with me today is Linda Morales, Education Administrator for the Program Quality Implementation, or PQI, South Office of the EED. And I have several colleagues assisting today with the administration of our webinar, including our student assistant, Jacob Modelis, and Staff Services Manager 1, Eden Hirsch. Helping respond to some of our questions today in the Q&A section of the webinar will be Lindsay Castillo, Analyst with the Contracts and Grants Administration Unit, Nikki Niknia, as well as Education Administrators Linda Morales, and EED Consultants Sandra Flores, Deborah Wacker, and Amy Silva. Please note that today our chat feature is disabled during the webinar. Therefore, if you have questions, please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. Participant questions will be displayed there, and you can select the thumbs up icon to upvote questions that you may share or the questions that you most want to have us answer today. Our team will do our best to respond to all the questions that we can. And please also check the frequently asked questions posted on the CDE CFA webpage after the webinar, where we will have FAQ updates. The webinar recording today, as well as the webinar slides, will be posted on the CDE CFA webpage after this webinar. On this slide is a photo collage of children from Hayward Unified School District. The center of the collage reads, "Everyone belongs, todos somos unidos." Next slide, please. So here we have our agenda for today's webinar. Today, we're going to provide an overview of Management Bulletin 23-09 regarding the fiscal year 2024-25 continued funding application for California State Preschool Program, CSPP, and Pre-Kindergarten and Family Literacy Support, CPKS contractors, including statutory background for the CFA. We will provide you with application updates, including anything that's new or updated for fiscal year 2024-25, and we will discuss how to submit the fiscal year 24-25 CFA. We will then walk through the instructions for completing the CFA and provide you with contact information for any questions or technical issues that may arise when completing and submitting the CFA. Next, we'll conduct a brief walkthrough of the electronic CFA to provide an example of what the responses will look like and how to submit online through the online application. Then, for as long as time allows, we will respond to frequently asked questions that are being posted in the Q&A feature of the webinar, and then we'll close out for the afternoon. So to get us started, I'd like to hand it over to Linda to provide an overview of Management Bulletin 23-09 and some of the instructions that you'll need for completing and submitting the 24-25 CFA. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Fiona. So Management Bulletin 23-09 offers our existing CDE, EED, California State Preschool Program, and Pre-Kindergarten and Family Literacy Support contractors the opportunity to request continued funding for fiscal year 2024-25. This MB, the CFA information found in the Management Bulletin 2206, in order to be considered for continued funding for fiscal year 2024, CSPP and CPKS contractors must complete and submit the fiscal year 2024-25 CFA on or before December 1, 2023. The complete fiscal year 2024 CFA electronic application and forms are available on the CFA webpage. A link now will be posted in the chat to the fiscal year 2024-25 webpage. It is very important for each contractor to review the information as soon as possible to ensure appropriate time and resources are reserved to complete and submit the CFA in a timely manner. Next slide, please. The CDE administers the CSPP and CPKS programs. The California Department of Social Services, the CDSS, administers all other program types, which became effective July 1, 2021. The information provided in this webinar regarding the continued funding application for fiscal year 2024-25 is for CSPP and CPKS contractors only. The California Code of Regulations, Title V, Section 17726D, requires contractors who intend to accept the offer to continue providing services in the subsequent contract period to respond to a continued funding application request in accordance with the instructions and timelines specified in this request. Management Bulletin 2309 provides the instructions and timelines applicable to the fiscal year 24-25 CFA. 5 CCR Section 17726E specifies that failure to respond within the timeline specified in the CFA request shall constitute notification to the CDE/EED the contractor's intent to discontinue services at the end of the current contract period. Next slide, please. Auto renewal. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the auto renewal process. The CSPP and CPKS contractors who apply for and are approved for continued funding will not need to sign a contract to provide services for fiscal year 23-24, as CSPP and CPKS contracts approved for continued funding will be automatically renewed through the CFA process as indicated in the MB 2309 and in accordance with all applicable federal and state laws, as well as CSPP and CPKS contract terms and conditions that will be incorporated into the subsequent contract as applicable. By signing the CFA, your agency indicates that it wishes to automatically renew its current CSPP and or CPKS contract for the next fiscal year and is willing to and does accept all the terms and conditions of such contract, which will be provided to all CSPP and CPKS contractors being renewed for funding no later than June 1, 2023. Contractors may reject the terms of the new contract by providing written notice to the CDE no later than July 1, 2024. Instructions on how to provide written notice of rejection of the terms of the new contracts will be provided with the proposed 23 instructions on the rejection will be provided on the terms of the new contracts were provided with the proposed 24-25 contracts. Now I'm going to hand it back over to Fiona to provide an overview of the instructions for completing and submitting the 24-25 CFA.
Okay, thank you, Linda. I want to remind everyone the chat feature is disabled, but you can go ahead and type questions into the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. And if you see questions posed that you also share, feel free to use the thumbs up icon to upvote those questions. And our team will do our best to respond to all the questions that we can today. Please be sure to check the frequently asked questions posted on the CDE CFA webpage as well after the webinar. I'll now review a few of the updates this year to the CFA for fiscal year 24-25. First, please note that the sections in the CFA have been reorganized a bit. Last year, there were, for example, 3 separate sections that addressed certifications that have been consolidated to streamline like content and reduce the number of times the authorized representative signature is required. So if you notice the different section numbers, the content is the same with minor adjustments to language. But sections 5, 7, and 8 from last year have been consolidated this year, combined into one section, which is section 6, contractor certification. Secondly, last year's CFA required those contractors with a program narrative change to complete and attach a separate form answering 3 questions about their proposed change. This was the program narrative change form. This year, we've incorporated those 3 questions directly into the body of the application, just to eliminate the need for an additional separate attachment. The content of the questions is the same. It's just been streamlined into the application. Next, I want to point out the program calendar has been modified for ease of use. So last year, there was an Excel format that separated each month onto different tabs. This year, we were able to convert this to a PDF format. And so the program calendar now is offered as a 1-page PDF document. Finally, the application for license exemption was formerly titled Self-Certification for Classroom Exemption from Title 22 Requirements. There have been some minor changes, mostly for clarification within the document, and the title has been edited primarily for clarity regarding the process of applying for and receiving license exemption. So this form still only applies to those local education agencies who choose to apply to be exempt from licensure pursuant to Health and Safety Code Section 1596.792. A few other more minor changes to the application language that have been made for clarity will be noted as we proceed with our slides today and as we review each section. Next slide, please. So now we're going to review the instructions for completing and submitting the CFA. Contractors operating a California State Preschool Program, CSPP, and or a pre-kindergarten family literacy support, CPKS program should review the instructions prior to completing the CFA for fiscal year 24-25. And I want to emphasize the importance of referring to the CFA instructions document and FAQs that are posted on our CFA webpage. Both of those resources have been updated since last year. Based on questions we received last year and leading up to this year, we updated those resources to provide more clarity. And there's many areas where step-by-step instructions are provided that are very helpful. So please refer to those resources on the CFA webpage. Next slide, please. All right. Fiscal year 24-25 CFA is due to the CDE EED on December 1st, 2023 by 5:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Contractors have a choice for the method of submission. They may submit electronically by completing our online application or by emailing documents that they have printed and scanned, or by submitting a hard copy by mail. I'm going to quickly summarize each of those options in a moment. Please only select one method of submission and only submit one copy of your application. No matter which method you choose, keep in mind you will still need to download and complete the required attachments that are posted on the CFA webpage, in addition to completing the application itself. Submitting via the online application means you access the online application that's linked from our webpage, complete the required fields, and type signatures into the signature fields. You download the required attachments from our webpage, complete them, save them on your computer in a zipped folder, and upload those required documents to the online application. You then submit the online application and you're prompted to send a follow-up email certifying your submission. Submitting to us via email means that you first requested a fillable copy of the CFA from us, which you can request by emailing cfa@cde.ca.gov. You then complete that copy, the attachments, print those and obtain wet signatures, and then scan and email those documents to cfa@cde.ca.gov. It is okay to use a certified digital signature through a platform that certifies signatures like DocuSign, and those documents could then be scanned and emailed as well. Alternatively, you have the option to mail a paper copy of the documents to the CDE EED. The address is provided in the instructions document posted on our webpage. We did receive quite a few paper submissions by mail last year. I would just emphasize that we do recommend submitting through one of the electronic options, if at all possible, to support more timely and efficient review if you can. All the CFAs must be received on or before 5:00 p.m. on the due date, Friday, December 1st, 2023, unless an extension has been provided, and that's regardless of the method of CFA submission. Regardless of the method of submission, also please be sure to keep a copy for your own records. And be sure that if you're providing wet signatures should be provided in blue ink, please. Okay, next slide, please. All right, we'll now go through the instructions for each section of the CFA. This information can also be found in the instructions document posted on the CFA webpage. In section 1, you'll provide the contractor information, including the name and contact information for the agency, the executive director, the person completing the CFA, etc. Please be sure to provide the complete legal business name and address. Doing business as, or DBA, is optional. It only applies if your organization has a legally designated DBA on file with the Secretary of State. Please note that information you enter in section 1 should match the information on file in the Child Development Management Information System, CDMIS database. You will want to be sure to log into CDMIS and make sure all of your information is correct and up to date. And note that in the online application, phone numbers need to be entered in an exact format, which we'll show you later when we demonstrate the online application. Next slide, please. Okay, so section 2 has 2 parts. For section 2, part 1, please check all applicable boxes to indicate the contract and program types that the contractor intends to administer for fiscal year 24-25. By checking the boxes, the contractor agrees that if approved for the continued funding, they'll continue implementation of the preschool services and family literacy services, if applicable, with the funds provided by CDE. The options for contract type are CSPP and CPKS. Please also indicate whether the CSPP contractor operates a family child care home education network. The options for program types are as follows: 1, full day, full year; 2, part day, part year; 3, full day, part year; 4, part day, full year. Definitions are found in the instructions and FAQs posted on our webpage, and we'll be happy to assist you if you have questions about which applies to you. Next slide, please. For section 2, part 2, please insert the projected total number of subsidized children you expect to enroll in your programs for each county where services are provided. This part of section 2 was labeled funded enrollment last year, but we found that this caused some confusion because funded enrollment is a particular calculation with a precise definition. And here we're asking for something slightly different. So for clarity, the section has been renamed to projected enrollment. For each county where CSPP services are administered, you'll simply enter the total number of subsidized children you expect to be enrolled for that fiscal year in part day and full day CSPP programs by county. It is not a contractually defined number. It is your best projection. And to be clear, we're not requiring that you use the funded enrollment calculator tool to calculate this answer. It's requesting your best projection of those numbers. One note, please be sure to check that your math makes sense given each number you're providing so that the totals for all the counties combined equate to the total number provided at the bottom of this section. Next slide, please. All right, section 3, contractors, officers, and board of directors. This section asks that you first define the governance structure of your organization. You'll indicate whether you have a board of directors or an other type of governance structure, such as owners, partners, governing officers, etc. And then you'll provide the contact information for each governing individual for your agency. Contact information for each governing individual is required whether or not the board of directors is the type of governance structure that you have or a different type of governance structure is indicated. So you'll also then answer whether or not any of the listed governing individuals have ever served with an agency that was terminated or involuntarily non-renewed for state or federal funding or debarred from federal funding at any time. Again, please complete all of these sections and questions, regardless of whether your agency indicates a board of directors or an other governance structure. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Sandra Flores, who's going to walk us through sections 4, 5, and 6.
Thank you, Fiona. Now let's look at Section 4, Program Narrative. Here you will indicate if the contractor does or does not have programmatic or minimum days of operation, MDO changes for fiscal year 2024-25. If you do indicate any programmatic or MDO changes, complete the 3 program narrative change questions provided in this section and provide a signature. If you are requesting an MDO change, please ensure that fiscal year 2024-25 program calendar aligns with the new proposed MDO. Note that whether or not you are requesting any changes, all contracts must submit a fiscal year 2024-25 program calendar, which is Form EED 9730. If you operate both a part-day and a full-day program, please submit a separate calendar for each. Next slide, please. Section 5, Subcontract Certification. Subcontractor refers to a separate agency subcontracted to provide CSPP services. This section asks whether or not the contractor subcontracts any portion of the CSPP contract. If the contractor operates without the use of any subcontractors, all they need to do in this section is mark the box indicating no subcontractors and provide the signature of the authorized representative. If the contractor does have subcontractors that have previously been approved by CDE EEV, check all applicable boxes in this section and complete and submit Form EED 3704B. This form is available on the CFA webpage. Note that if a subcontractor listed on the CFA has not been previously approved by the CDE EEV, the contractor will be contacted to request the required documentation needed to approve any newly proposed subcontract. In addition, required subcontract provisions can be found in the contract terms and conditions and in Title V, Section 17802. Next slide, please. Section 6, Contractor Information. This section contains required certifications that were previously separated into 3 separate sections of the CFA. Personnel certification, certification of information in CDMIS, and contractor certification. They are now all included in Section 6, Contractor Certification. By completing and signing this section, the authorized representative certifies that they are authorized to execute the continued funding application, have supervisory authority over the state preschool program, have actual knowledge of the information in the application, and certifies that the information in the application is true and correct. The authorized representative agrees that by signing the CFA, they're agreeing to renew the contract under the terms and conditions that will be applicable to fiscal year 2024-25, and such contract will be in effect as of July 1, 2024, unless the contractor submits written notice of rejection of the contract to the CDE prior to the effective date of such contract. The state of California requires any contractor receiving early education and care funding dispersed by CDE to employ fully qualified personnel, as stipulated in the California Education Code and the California Code of Regulations, Title V, and the contract terms and conditions. Next slide, please. Continuing with Section 6, Contractor Certification. This section also includes certification of information in the Child Development Management Information System, CDMIS. and an agreement to meet the requirements for contractors to review and update all the information in the CDMIS. By completing this section, the authorized representative certifies under penalty of perjury that the information in CDMIS is complete and accurate as of the date of certification. This includes the name and contact information for the executive director and program director, location of offices, location, license number, and license capacity of facility sites and or family child care home providers who serve children through a CSPP, FCCHEN, or also known as FECHEN, and the number of children enrolled. The information in the CDMIS becomes part of the agency's contract. Complete and accurate information is critical to the function of the CSPP and the maintenance of your agency's CSPP contract. Incomplete or inaccurate information in the CDMIS can result in an audit finding at the state level and a finding of noncompliance for your agency. Maintenance of complete and accurate information in the CDMIS is your responsibility. Detailed instructions for logging into CDMIS and updating this information are provided in the CFA instructions document posted on the CFA webpage, and support is available by contacting CDMIS at cve.ca.gov. Please ensure this section is completed and signed by the contractor's authorized representative. Now I'll hand it back over to Fiona.
Thank you, Sandra. We can go to the next slide, please. Section 7, CFA checklist. Perfect. So we're now on the final section of the CFA, Section 7, CFA checklist. In this section, you'll start by indicating your agency type. Check the appropriate boxes to indicate if the contractor is a public or non-public agency, community college or community college district, LEA or not. And this helps clarify which documents are required to be completed and submitted with your particular application, since slightly different requirements apply to different types of agencies. A checklist is provided in this section to help you ensure that you have completed and included all of the CFA sections and required attachments before you submit the CFA. If you're completing the online application, you'll see that as you proceed, it requires you to complete each section before you can progress to the next one. And in this final section, the CFA checklist, it will show you a list of required documents specific to your agency based on the answers you've provided. Not only to identify agency type, but also, for example, if you checked yes to the use of subcontractors, the application would automatically include that document, the subcontractor certification form, in your checklist. But if you're instead completing a hard copy, it will be up to you to double check for completeness. So please use the box next to each item listed in this section to confirm that you've completed and included all the necessary items before you submit the CFA. Okay, next slide, please. So we're now going to do a brief walkthrough of the electronic CFA, highlighting some tips about its functionality, and we'll look at a couple of the sections together. For demonstration purposes, some sample responses have been entered into the form fields. The electronic version of the CFA is available on the CFA webpage, and it is our preferred method of submission. It's just more effective for us for data collection. I think it's more user-friendly, so we really encourage you to go to the CFA webpage and click the hyperlinked text fiscal year 2024-25 continued funding application, which we'll show to you now as well. So we will go ahead and switch screens to show you the electronic CFA. Thank you. So as you can see, this is the first page, and it provides an overview and some instructions. At the bottom of each page, you'll see that you have these buttons: back, reset, save responses, and next. If you're not able to complete the CFA in one session, you can use the Save Responses feature to save your progress, and it enables you to return to the CFA at a later time to complete it. When you click the Save Responses button, an email will be sent to you with a unique link that enables you to return to your application later. Go ahead and proceed to the next page. On this page, you can see we have the contractor information fields. You'll enter all the information relating to the agency. There's a question, for example, is the mailing address different from the legal business address? And feel free to show both versions of these answers as we demonstrate this. But if you select yes, you'll see that the necessary form fields for that additional mailing address will appear for you to populate. There are a few places in the application where this type of functionality is used so that your answers to the questions will affect what other content appears. It will prompt you to just see the content that is relevant to you. And you'll complete the required fields on each page and click the next button at the bottom of the page to proceed. If any of the required fields are left blank, for example, Jacob, you could delete any of the answers and then select the next button to demonstrate this. If any of the fields are left blank and you click next, it won't allow you to proceed, and it will use this red frame to highlight where a correction is needed. And it will pop up a message about correcting what's wrong or what's missing. Okay, so let's see if we can proceed now to the next section. We're going to move on and show you the Section 3 officers and Board of Directors information. So here you'll answer yes or no to the question of whether this agency has a board of directors. If the answer is no, you'll see a field that asks you to explain the governance structure. So please enter that information if you are prompted to do so. And then, as you'll see, there's a field for the contact information for each governing individual, and it requires you to enter first and last name, title, telephone number, mailing address, and email address. Please do enter unique information for each individual rather than the same information repeated for all governing individuals. And this is an example of the required format of telephone numbers where there's 3 digits, a dash, 3 digits, a dash, and 4 digits. If it's entered in a different format, that red error framing will appear. So just wanted to flag that as a common question about why a phone number has been flagged. Just needs to be in this exact format that's demonstrated here in the example. Okay, so let's skip ahead a few sections. I think since we've reviewed these sections in our prior slides, it's pretty clear, and we'll have some reminders in a moment from our PQI representatives. But let's go ahead to the last section, Section 7, CFA checklist. And I want to demonstrate how you'll submit your completed online application and explain, that here's where you'll have the opportunity to save the completed online application. So first, you'll see at the top some questions about your agency type. So you'll select your agency type. And again, this helps clarify the required documents for each CFA. You'll see below a customized list of required attachments if you're completing the online application. So it's going to show you the items that are applicable to your agency type and your specific application. And you'll need to check these boxes to confirm that you've included all the required attachments. Before submitting your application, you should make sure that you've downloaded and completed all the required forms and check them off the list in this section. Save all those required attachments, please, in one folder on your computer. And please name that folder with your vendor number. That helps us keep all of the applications organized when they're submitted. And in the name of each document within the folder, would also appreciate you including the naming convention mentioned here, which includes your vendor number in the file name. You will save that folder as a compressed or zipped file so that it can be submitted as one attachment. The instructions for doing this are displayed both on the online application as well as in the instructions document. and I'll review them briefly here. If you need to save all these files as one zipped folder or compressed folder, you can simply right-click on the folder that contains all of your documents, select Send To, and then select Compressed Zipped Folder, and a new version of that folder will save right next to the previous one, and you'll see that it ends with a .zip. So that's the file type you'll attach. And as you can see, the final question in this section is the prompt to upload the .zip file containing all the required attachments. To upload it, you'll click the file icon, which you can see here with an upward facing arrow. Select the zip folder that's saved on your computer and click upload. And when the file has successfully uploaded, you'll see that this field populates with a unique ID, and that'll appear in that box. And then you'll click submit. But as you can see, you can, you know what, we may not be able to demonstrate this at the moment, but when you have uploaded this file and selected all of the checkboxes appropriately, you can proceed to the next the next page. And that's where you have the option to print your online application that you've completed. And so instead of, if you're wanting to just save a file, instead of selecting a printer under the print to option for your computer, you can select for it to print to PDF and simply save a copy of it on your computer. Okay. So I think that concludes what I wanted to demonstrate for our online application. Please note that if you are submitting the online application, since signatures have been typed into the online form fields, you do have to make sure to complete your submission to send the certification email, and there's specific instructions for that will be emailed to the user who submits the application. And the instructions for that are also in the CFA instructions document on our website. Okay. So we can go back to our slides now, and we'll talk a little bit about the required attachments before we move on to focusing on our Q&A. Okay. Perfect. So our required attachments. First, I just want to reiterate that all contractors must provide these documents. That includes the CSPP program calendar or calendars, if you have to, the California Civil Rights Laws certification form, the contractor certification clauses, the federal certification, and the CDMIS agency information certification. So those apply to all CFAs and need to be included. And there's specific instructions for each one, and they can be downloaded from our CFA webpage. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Okay. Any contractor that uses subcontractors also needs to provide the subcontractor certification form, also known as EED 3704B. Please note that this must be signed by the contractor's authorized representative. On the second page of this form, you'll find the signature field. Sometimes if folks just have one subcontractor, they may forget to do the second page, but that's important to include because that's where the signature is provided. And if you should have multiple subcontractors and need more pages to include all of them, please use multiple copies of the form. If you need any assistance making the format of this form work for you and it's challenging because of the number of sites or number of subcontractors you may have, feel free to email us and we'll assist you with that. Okay, next slide. Okay, so for LEAs, local education agencies, we also need you to provide verification of LEA name and address. This is a copy of the information displayed either in the California School Directory or California Community College Chancellor's webpage. That's for community colleges and community college districts. If the LEA is choosing to apply to be exempt from licensure pursuant to Health and Safety Code, Section 1596.792, they must also include the completed and signed application for license exemption. There are some instructions specific to that form included in the document itself, so please be sure to review those carefully. Okay, and next slide. Non-public agencies also will need to provide the State of California Payee Data Record, STD 204 or Standard 204, Secretary of State certification or search results. And if the payment address for your agency differs from the mailing address that's provided on the Standard 204, the Payee Data Record supplement is also required, the Standard 205. Again, only if the payment address differs from the mailing address. Next slide. All right. So I wanted to explain the resolution requirement, since that's an area where we tend to get a lot of questions. The board resolution or meeting minutes requirement. So first and foremost, the CFA must be signed by a person with the legal authority to contractually bind the agency or the contractor's authorized representative. A board resolution or meeting minutes may be required to show that the agency authorizes submission of the CFA and that the person signing the CFA has been delegated the legal authority to sign contractual agreements on behalf of the agency. Next slide, please. So for public agencies, if the contractor is a county, city, district, or other local public body, the local governing body must provide one of the following documents authorizing the CFA, specifically authorizing the 2425 CFA, and identifying the names of the individuals authorized to sign the CFA and the related contractual documents. So those types of documents include a board resolution or board minutes or board policy, again, to demonstrate that the governing body authorizes submission of the 2425 CFA and identifies the names of the individuals who are being delegated the legal authority to sign and execute contractual documents. Next slide, please. So for public agencies, there is one exception to what I just mentioned. For county offices of education specifically, a resolution is not required only if the county superintendent signs the CFA and the related contract documents on behalf of the County Office of Education. If anyone else signs, then a board resolution or minutes authorizing delegation of authority would still be required. Next slide, please. Okay, and for private agencies, number one, be sure if you're a private agency to review and follow your agency's bylaws regarding entering into contractual agreements. And for us, the general assumption is the executive director, owner, or president or board president are authorized signers on behalf of a private agency. If an individual with a different title than those is going to sign the CFA, please provide one of the following that indicates the signee has the authority to sign contractual agreements on behalf of the agency and authorizes the CFA. So that could be a letter on company letterhead, board resolution, or board minutes. Next slide, please. And finally, I wanted to clarify that we do provide a template board resolution on the CFA webpage. You may either download this and complete it as a template, or if you would like to provide an equivalent resolution in your own format, or again, in the format of meeting minutes, that's okay as well. And you can refer to the language in our template simply as an example. Next slide, please. All right, so a few tips and updates and reminders related to some more of these required documents. The program calendar has been updated to now be a one-page PDF format for ease of use. If a contractor operates both a full day and a part day program, please be sure you include a separate program calendar for each one of those programs. The 24-25 program calendar must align with the contractor's established minimum days of operation, which you can see in CDMIS. Otherwise, if you're proposing different minimum days of operation, that should include a program narrative change. So again, the alignment of the calendar to your existing MDO means you're not proposing any change. If you're providing a calendar with different days of operation than what we would find in CDMIS, that means you are proposing a change. Next slide, please. Okay, so contractors complete the contractor certification clauses document to certify that they're duly authorized to legally bind the prospective contractor to all of the clauses listed in that document. So please be sure that each one is reviewed, and note that this document needs to be signed by the contractor's authorized representative. Next slide. Federal Certification Form, CO8. Prospective contractors must complete and sign the federal certification to attest that they will comply with certification requirements regarding lobbying, debarment, suspension, and other workplace requirements. Oftentimes, there's a part of this document is missed, and that is places of performance. So please be sure to note that on page 2, there is a space where you're required to list all the places of performance. And again, note this is also a document that needs to be signed by the contractor's authorized representative. And here's our contact information. So you may submit questions regarding the application process to the CFA team by email at cfa@cde.ca.gov. You may submit programmatic questions regarding the CFA to your assigned Early Education Division Program Quality Implementation Office Regional Consultant. And you may submit fiscal related questions regarding the CFA to your assigned Early Education Nutrition Fiscal Services Apportionment Analyst. Next slide, please. Okay, and for a few final pointers, I want to turn it over now to Sandra Flores before we move on to our Q&A. Sandra?
Thank you, Fiona. So now we have a couple of quick reminders to share as we want to ensure you are aware of what can cause a delay in processing the CFA. One of the biggest delays in processing the CFAs is the agency's board resolution authorizing submission and designating an authorized representative who may sign the fiscal year 2024-25 CFA and other contract documents that must be submitted with the application. EED staff reviews all the CFAs to ensure the individual signing the CFA is authorized to sign. Without the resolution, the CFA is put on hold, which is why EED sent out an email on October 2nd, 2023, in hope that all contractors plan ahead and put the CFA on the board agenda. We understand that the holidays are approaching, yet it is imperative that the Board of Resolution is submitted with the CFA. To continue, please ensure you inform your Program Quality Implementation PQI consultant of any requested CDMIS changes you are requesting or have requested prior to submitting the CFA. PQI receives a lot of CDMIS changes during the month when the CFA is due, which causes a delay in the CFA. So as a note, CDMIS changes can be requested and completed throughout the year. Also, subcontractor information can be found in the required subcontract provisions section in the Contract Terms and Conditions and in Title V, Section 17802. For contractors that have been approved by EED, they need to complete the subcontractor information form, which is EED 3704B. New subcontractors that have not been approved by EED must read the contract terms and conditions and reach out to your assigned PQI consultant. What causes the delay is often the form EED 3704B that is not submitted in the CFA or new subcontractors that do not have approval. In addition, LEA license exempt classrooms must be renewed annually per Title V, Section 17775 for currently approved license exempt classrooms. Be sure to fill out the section in the CFA accurately. For requesting new license exempt classrooms, an application must be complete if your agency is a LEA operating a California State preschool program. You can find the application to be located in the CFA website. We will place the link in the chat box in a moment for your reference. Next slide, please. Okay, the CFA is reviewed by many offices before a contract is executed. We wanted to share with you a timeline for the CFAs. The Management Bulletin 2309 was released on October 20th, 2023, with all the required forms and instructions for contractors to assess and preparing the continued funding application. Today, October 31st, the CFA webinar is being held to review the instructions in the CFA. On December 1st, 2023, by 5 p.m., all of the CFA applications by mail or electronically are due to EED. From December 2nd, 2023 to February 28, 2024, the CFAs are processed and completed by EED staff. Lastly, the CFAs are reviewed by the Contracts Office, which will provide an executed contract for each contractor by March 2024. Again, we wanted to share a visual timeline of a systematic process that involves you, the contractors, and the Early Education Division and other offices that work as partners for the execution of the contract. I will now hand it back over to Fiona to get us started with the Q&A. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. So we will now start taking your questions as we have been during the webinar. Please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen to submit your question. Our team will do our best to respond to all questions in the Q&A feature. We will also take some questions live with the remainder of our time on today's webinar, and I'll repeat some of the frequently asked questions aloud and answer some verbally today, in addition to the answers you'll see entered in the Q&A feature. The questions posted by other attendees are displayed in the Q&A feature, so please feel free to use the thumbs up icon to upvote questions that also apply to you. And as a reminder, please also check the CFA webpage after this webinar for FAQ updates. The webinar recording, as well as the webinar slides and transcript, will be posted to the CDE CFA webpage within a few days. On this slide is a photo of 4 preschool students on a play structure sliding down yellow slides. We're going to temporarily stop screen sharing for the moment while we focus. Okay, this is Fiona. One item that I wanted to highlight is that there were some updates this year to the template Board of Resolution document, or pardon me, resolution document from Board of Directors. So the template provided on our webpage this year is slightly different from last year. One of the adjustments is no longer requiring the signature of each designee, as well as having a little bit more specific language demonstrating the authorization to submit the 24-25 CFA specifically. Previously, there was more generic language in that form, and it involved a few more steps in terms of required signatures. So it's a little bit different this year. Please be sure that you're referring to the current year board resolution template. There's another question that on the CO8 form, there's not a box for an electronic signature to be entered, or rather a digital signature. So there is a fillable form field that's typically used for simple text to be typed in. That was a recommendation for accessibility purposes, since most people are providing written signature, and for other reasons that's more accessible to some users. We may be able to edit that for you to provide you that electronic signature field if that's what you need. So I'd be happy to provide that version as well. Again, we're kind of trying to provide versions that are as accessible as possible for all different types of users and different assistive technologies. But we'll be happy to provide the version with the digital formatted signature field as well. There's also a question about whether our templates and our new templates can be used for both CDE and CDSS, or just CDE applications. So our documents and processes are unique and separate between CDE and CDSS. We do make efforts to coordinate, and we're working toward a more streamlined and similar set of application materials. But as of now, you need to be sure to follow each separate agency's instructions and use their templates. So please be sure to refer to the CDSS instructions and materials separate from what CDE provides, because they do administer their programs separately. So they may have different documents for you. If the organization's bylaws give the executive director the authority to sign, do we need to provide a copy of the bylaws in place of the board resolution? For our purposes, we already assume that the executive director of a private agency has that authority. So we are not requesting that you proactively provide that evidence of the executive director's authority to sign. We appreciate you keeping it on file and handy should the contracts office have any questions, but we will not require that or return your application if you have not provided that.
Hi, Fiona. I think you already responded to this question, but there was a question about if they could use the same board resolution for CCTR and CSPP. Can you just reiterate the information you provided, please?
Absolutely. So the programs that are administered by CDE are limited to CSPP and CPKS. In this case, there are similar requirements for our programs and some of the CDSS programs, CFAs, but they do have separate instructions and separate documents. So answer is no. Please don't assume that you can reuse our templates for CDSS. You may want to contact CDSS to ask if the version that you've already drafted or created for our process would meet their requirements, but they're not automatically accepted interchangeably. So please do make sure that you're reviewing the instructions they provide and getting answers directly from the CDSS for those questions. And as to the question of whether you may combine the language that authorizes one program's renewal and another program's renewal, I believe for our purposes, as long as the authorization of the CFA for fiscal year 24-25 CSPP is included in a resolution, we have historically accepted resolutions that also contain other provisions. So as long as the language is there, if there are multiple items included, that doesn't mean that we won't accept the resolution, as long as it includes the language we require and is properly authorized.
Hello. I just wanted to also address the question surrounding the CO8 form on our website. I did just download it, and there is an option there for electronic signature. So if you are for some reason downloading it and not getting that option, please reach out to the CFA inbox and we can maybe email that to you directly, but it should be available on our website. But you may need to actually download it for that to work. Or if there's some incompatibilities, please just email us and let us know and we can get that to you. It's on mute, but I wasn't saying anything, so you guys weren't missing anything. I just want to say that we have noticed that there have been a lot of questions surrounding professional development days, and we are just double checking. We want to make sure that we're giving you the most accurate information. So we are doing some quick double checking on that, and then we will come on live and go ahead and give you that answer. Is there any other questions related to other things besides professional development days?
Okay, we have a question. When submitting the board resolution to my board for approval, do we need to have them sign the completed CFA at that time? So the board resolution is taken up by your board or governing body. The CFA itself may be signed by any authorized representative who can sign the contractual agreements on behalf of the agency. So that may or may not be the board president or a board member themselves. So those can be done as two separate processes. The submission of the CFA does need to include everything at one time. So you will have had the board resolution passed before the submission of the CFA and all the documents signed before you submit everything to us in one package. The board resolution may be completed earlier in the process than the CFA itself is signed. Different people may be doing each of those roles. You just need to be sure that whomever is signing the CFA and the accompanying documents does have the legal authority to do so.
All right. After some deliberation on professional development days, we want to make sure that we're giving you the right information to not hold up any CFAs from getting approved. So once we figure out this information, because we don't want to hold everyone on this webinar, we will update our FAQs and it will be included in there. So check back in the next week or so, and the information will be there.
Okay, and may I ask Jacob to resume sharing our slides? We want to show our closing slide at this point in time. We are continuing to stay on the webinar to address any final questions that we can answer at this point in time. So our presentation of the webinar is concluding for today. You may stay on if you have a question you'd like to enter into the Q&A feature. Otherwise, you will see the answers to any remaining questions in the FAQ, which will be updated on the CFA webpage. There should be a link to that page in the chat that was posted earlier today and linked in the management bulletin and email alerts that were sent previously regarding this webinar and the CFA. So we've come to the end of our presentation for the CFA fiscal year 24-25, and I want to thank you all for joining us today. And sincerely want to thank you all very much for your dedication and all the important work that you do on behalf of California's children and families. This webinar will be posted to the CFA webpage after the recording has uploaded. You will have access to the webinar recording and to the slides, and both will be posted to the CFA webpage as soon as possible. As a reminder, for further questions, please feel free to email cfa@cde.ca.gov. And on this slide is a photo of 2 preschool students playing in a play structure shaped like a ship. Thank you all very much. This concludes our webinar for today.